What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Realmhattan Project. I am your host for tonight, your boy Derek B, along with my buddy Gort,
Hello.
and we got Ricky Ticky on the bottom.
Who's experienced extreme technical difficulties because my screen is blank, but I can hear you guys.
Hey, that's all right, man. We get you through it, man. We get you through it. We're gonna wait for you. We're gonna be patient. We're gonna be kind. We're gonna be joyful, and at the same time, let's get this rolling. Coming to the stage. I know y'all been waiting for this all week. Coming to the stage. We got a man that really needs no introduction, but we're going to do it anyway. We're bringing our special guest, Ben Yee.
Greetings, programs.
How you doing, Ben?
All right. Thank you for having me.
All right. Ben, you are from BWTF.com, a site that we have known and loved for years. And I know we're going to get into all of that tonight. But first, I wanted to go around and just see how everybody's week was. How was your week, Gort?
It was an interesting week. We had thinking about how I got nothing to be in trouble for saying. We had 2 firings at work this week. That wasn't pleasant.
Were they legitimate firings? Like, did they need to go?
I don't agree with I don't agree with either of them, but one of them was an unavoidable scenario. He was on a path. The other guy, that was a mistake, and they poked the beehive, and it's going to get bad. I think he'll be back. I think that they made a mistake with that one. The schedule's all screwed up, and that aside, New York Comic-Con last weekend, and it was a blast. I was there with Derek, EE, Mike and Cade was there. Who else we run into? I was there with my wife and her friends. And it was an absolute blast. Like, I walked away with some good stuff. I got hoodie and some posters and stuff. But like the real one that surprised me, I got this 5-foot Princess Mononoke poster.
Oh yeah, did you put it up yet? Or you still gonna get it framed?
Not yet. I got to get that custom framed, and probably it's gonna go above the fireplace. Like, that's a nice spot for that one, and I hope it looks good there. I want something nice there.
Okay. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. It's gonna look dope.
I'm excited to do that.
Yeah. So Ben was there too, but I didn't get the opportunity to put two together because there was so much going on. I wish I had gotten the chance to put you two together because y'all got so much to talk about. Y'all really got so much to talk about as we're gonna do it tonight. But hey, yo, Ricky, what's up with you, bro?
I'll get the negative part out so I can end on a happy note. So Sunday, doing sports ball with the kiddos. My knee started feeling really jacked up. I'm not usually one to go to doctors or hospitals. Carol will tell you I pretty much fight her all the way down about it. But Monday morning, I went to step out of bed and collapsed to the floor. My knee gave out on me.
Ooh.
So I actually had her take me to the ER. Because I didn't know what was going on, and they're talking about, it could be a torn meniscus, could be a torn tendon. They want me to get a hold of an orthopedic surgeon and gave me a number to call. They put me in one of those immobilizer things, like a brace, but it's got the big metal rods that go from the back of your thigh to your ankle to keep you from moving it. They had me in that and on crutches. And so got home, and myself and Kara kept trying to call the orthopedic person. It would keep ringing. And as soon as they'd pick up, it would hang up. So I did that. And I'll do that I'll only beat my head on the wall so many times before I realize it hurts. So after a while of that, I stopped doing that. And so I decided I was going to call my personal doctor because they also have all these other kind of doctors there. And they said now mind you, this is Monday. And they're like, our first available opening is Thursday. And I'm supposed to work a double Wednesday and then close on Thursday. And I'm like, that won't be happening. So we're just going to go ahead and ride this truck till the wheels fall off, I guess. So I put a brace on it. My mom's a nurse. She gave me some spray stuff to put on it. It's like some medical level, icy hot spray to put on it. I had some leftover pills from when I messed up my shoulder a few years ago. I know you're not supposed to use old pills, but all they really are is they're just weaker is all it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything bad to them. They're not as strong.
Yeah.
So I had some of those I took and was able to, I've been at work for the last 3 days with a brace on. So, I mean, it's getting slightly better. It still hurts. So I don't think anything is torn. I think it was just pulled or strained.
Okay.
So heading in the right direction. It's getting better. Done with that negativity. On a positive note, most of y'all know I coach my youngest's baseball team. They just moved up to majors this year. They aged up into the majors, and they are the whole entire team. Our whole entire team is all 9 and 10-year-olds, or they're about to be 10 because 10 is the cutoff. So they're about to be 10, or they are 10, and they're in the majors. Well, they're playing against teams of 12 and 13-year-olds because 13 years old is where you age up to the next bracket.
Yeah.
And these are guys have been playing, like, you get serious at this level. This is serious baseball time.
Okay.
And they played their first 2 games. They won their first 2 games, and they're the only undefeated team in the majors right now. So right now they are the team to beat in the majors versus all those grown kids who've been playing together for years. So we're going to bad news bear our way right through this season and beat all their asses and then laugh at them. So
that's what's up. Yeah.
That's my positive. They're doing great. My youngest is a catcher. He's loving it. He likes the fact that the pitching's actually getting high speed. We actually had to get him a thumb guard because the one pitcher hit him with like a 75-mile-per-hour pitch.
Oh, for real?
Oh, yeah. And he told me afterwards, he's like, man, it's a little sore. And I'm like, do I need to cut it off? He's like, no. I'm like, okay, well, it ain't broken then. So we went down and got him there's like a little thing you put it on his finger and you shape it, and then you put water on it and it hardens. It's like a removable cast almost. And he just slides up into the glove while he's holding it.
So it was his actually it was his actual thumb that got
he hit like this
right
part right here, but the whole guard goes down and kind of covers this whole area, and it keeps the thumb from flexing backwards on if you don't catch it correctly. Because technically, and I am that dad, I don't give a shit. I told him that means you caught the ball wrong because you're supposed to catch it in the glove anyways. You shouldn't be catching it over here.
Right.
So I was like, now you learned your lesson. You get whacked in the head. You learn that hurts. Don't do it no more. And so now he's out there just nailing it in the middle. But we got him that just in case. You know, I'll be tough with him, but I'm still a big softy with him. So I made sure he had what he needed if it happens again. But I wanted him to learn that there is a better way to do it. You don't have to worry about it.
Right.
So that's my positives of that. And I'm here with you guys tonight. We get Mr. Am I pointing the right direction now?
Nope, he's over. He's.
God, I hate this stupid mirroring crap, man. I want you to put me in the bottom left-hand corner from now on, so I ain't got to worry about none of this left or right stuff. It drives me crazy. But we got Mr. Ben here somewhere, wherever he's at.
You got it.
So I got you in there somewhere. I know I pointed at you at least once. So.
All right.
So we got him here tonight, and we're gonna have fun with that. We're gonna get to talk some cool Transformer stuff. We're all we're all semi-Transformer nerds. I mean, we know a little bit about Transformers around here, so now we get to learn some really cool stuff. So we're gonna have fun with that, and I get to hang with you guys and talk, and that always makes me feel better. So that's
what's up, man. But before we even get into that,
any technical difficulties I have throughout the rest of this, because I'm fighting with my.
Oh no, you all good. You know we got you. You know we got you. But before we get into all that, hey Ben, how was your week?
Well, first, I got to hang out with you at Comic-Con, so started out really great. Got to have dinner, nice steak, right? Good restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit of weird service, but we got through it.
Yeah, we got through it. But, you know, it ended up being great at the end of the night. So, yeah.
And we got to do the Earthspark panel together, which was fun. I always love being in those panels. Reminds me of when we used to be at BotCon and like Hasbro would bring like the first episode of a new series to show us, or something like that. That was always fun, and it's been so long since I've done anything like that. That was an absolute joy. Last night, and this is kind of a sneak preview for my YouTube channel. Last night, I got to attend the pre-opening preview party at the new Toys R Us store in Macy's Herald Square in New York City.
I saw that.
14,000 square feet of toy. And it was, I mean, when I say party, it was hors d'oeuvres being served. There were 2 full bars, DJ, the whole 9. So I did some YouTube video. I did some narration. I'm going to be putting that video together. That'll be up on my channel soon. But I mean, what a surprise. They literally, like, I think the day before the party, they invited me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw the pictures on your personal page, you know, that you put up and everything.
That was like the sneak peek.
Yeah.
But here's how crazy things are. Here's how like life just throws you unexpected curveballs, good ones. Do you remember at New York Comic Con, Jeffrey was running around the show floor?
Yeah.
Okay. So I took a picture with him, posted it on social. Toys R Us's official Twitter sees the picture, and they're, because I tagged them, and they're like, "Hey, this is the guy who did the American Dream Mall Toys R Us video last December that got all those hits. We should invite him to this thing." And that's how I got invited. I had no idea until they told me last night that's how it all happened. I thought they just saw my picture with Jeffrey and were like, "Oh yeah, let's invite him. He took a picture with Jeffrey." But no, they actually said they took a portion of my video that I did last year and they incorporated it into their internal sizzle reel for Toys R Us.
Wow,
which is crazy.
Yeah, that's what's up, man.
So
congrats on that.
Interesting couple of days after Comic-Con.
And was that so that, because I saw the guy dressed as Jeffrey, was that an actual Toys R Us guy, or was that, I thought it was a cosplay?
No, right? You would think that at Comic-Con, but that was the Jeffrey surrounded by Toys R Us PR people.
Yeah, we'd seen him at the Super 7 booth.
Yep, that's why I sure did. I saw him there.
Cosplay, you know?
Yeah, at first I thought it was cosplay, wanted the picture anyway, didn't care. But then when I was walking away from the picture, both women who were with him kind of yelled over their shoulder, "It's opening October 14th. You got to go." And I was like, "Oh, so this is real. This is like a PR thing you guys are doing," which was great. And I just got lucky enough that I got that picture in.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was a bittersweet moment to. It was a bitter, not bittersweet, but it was a bitter moment when Toys R Us all over the country were shut down.
Oh yeah,
and we lost that ability to have that feel, you know, because I know I got the opportunity when my kids were young to take them to a Toys R Us and just let them run around or walk around and just check out stuff. And I know it changed over the years, but it's like, you know, I think about the kids that's around now, and they don't get to experience that. Because I remember going to the one in it was Times Square, New York, the Toys R Us in Times Square, man, with the
rides
Ferris
and
wheel.
stuff.
Yeah, man, I missed that, man. And I think that was the first one to get shut down. I may be wrong,
one
but
of them. That one actually preceded all the bankruptcy stuff because
that was the lease, right?
It just cost so much money to run it, and I don't think it made the money it needed to back, even with all the tourism. Still, it's a gap now, and that's just depressing.
Well, I know they closed ours down here in town, and the building just sat there for probably 4 or 5 years afterwards. And it kind of sucked driving by and seeing it, but I'm gonna tell you, the most depressing day was the day I drove by and they knocked it down. Like they cleared it out. Now it's just an empty parking lot. And like that's when it kind of hit me, because like with it still there, you know, they still have the stripes on it, you know, the fruit stripe stripes are going across it. Like they just didn't have the words there. So I'm like, oh, they could always come back. You know, I was the little kid in Angels in the Outfield. It could happen. You know, like I wanted it to be able to come back, but now the building is completely gone. So if they do come back, it's going to have to be something different. So that's what really hit me.
Are a tile store now and a Burlington.
Oh,
still there, but
the one in Elizabeth, that's the floor and tile. It's so awful to see that too.
I mean, it's nice that the structure's still there, but you look inside and you just, in your mind, you can picture what used to be there. And that's very bittersweet in its own way.
I don't even go in that area no more. When I hit New York, I just purposely don't go in that section. I was just like, yo, I can't. If Toys R Us ain't there, I don't want to see what's going on over there.
And, on last Friday, we narrowly avoided that because we found that Chinese restaurant before getting right to the area there.
Is that right? Oh man, I'm glad
you're right on track there.
Yeah, I'm glad we stopped then. I would have been super depressed if I had saw that, man. I was like, yo. So that was that Saturday night? It was no, it was that Friday night. It was that Friday night.
Yeah.
And man, I'm telling you, that walk from Javits to where we were going, it felt good, but at the same time, I'm glad we missed that spot, man. So, you know, going to that spot was meant to be, because the universe was like, don't take Derek B to that area because y'all not gonna have a good night that night. So, but yeah, man, I miss my Toys R Us's, and I can't wait to see him again, you know. So yeah, and I can't wait to see the stuff that you're going to be putting up. Stuff you're going to be putting up soon, Ben. I would love to see that. I can't wait to see.
And whenever you're back in the area, I mean, let's go. There's also great places to eat around there. So, you're not going to go hungry when you're hanging out with me.
Okay, there you go. I never do, man. Shoot, yeah. But nah, I gotta. Whenever I come back up there too, man, I'm gonna have Gort come up there, and then if Ricky can make the trip from Florida, we'll have him come up too. So
y'all come down here. I'm so tired of going back up north, man. Y'all's turn.
I know we got to get down there. We got to get down there to see you, Ricky.
And if you do come down, make sure you come by the house. Don't just come down and be like, "Hey, I was only an hour from your house," and not gonna come back because I don't really like you.
Here we go. Oh, here we go with this. Hey, you know what? That's for another show, Ben. I'll tell you about that one later. Anyway,
I want to thank Dormammu for their kind comments in the chat section about my site and my role in Transformers. I really appreciate that. It's very humbling that people even remember me. Honestly, you guys here is very humbling. And I also agree. Pour a few out for KB and FAO as well.
Yeah, you are the OG, man. I was like, yo, I gotta get Ben on there. But man, look, I still
had some old like memories of it too.
Yeah,
I think I'm talking about back in
the
day.
The literal truth is, I don't know where I'd be in the fandom without the site too. Like that really brought me in, and I found a lot of other places through it too.
Yeah. And I remember. Dang, it's that long ago.
Don't do it.
No, because I was thinking about around the time of 9/11, because that's how far we go. That's how far it goes back. It's like, yo, it was in the mid 90s. Mid 90s. It was just like, yo, because when Beast Wars was so prevalent, the site was centered around Beast Wars, and I remember just getting into it, and this is when they had the web rings back in the day. The web rings, the Yahoo group, the AOL.
God, you're making us all feel old, bro.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, yo, it's such rich history. I don't mind, I don't mind at all telling everybody how old I am. When it comes to that, man, that's how long this thing has been, man. But I remember back when we used to do the Beast Wars groups where you headed at the time, and we would chat back and forth about what we thought about the episode, and we would watch it and then come back and then talk about it. If I remember correctly, I think we watched. We did a lot of guesstimating, because that's how invested we were with the show back then. Beast Wars back then was the first time I got to experience Transformers in a storied platform where it was a lot involved. It was that's where I first experienced character building, where it wasn't just a toy just to appear on the show. So it wasn't just one of those toys that appeared on the show just to get it sold. You know what I mean? Like Generation 1 Transformers, who we all grew up on. So, but Beast Wars, if I didn't get the toys, I was okay, because I was invested in the show because of how well the story was being told. And back then, when you had the site up, we did a lot of. We were so engaged into it. You did a lot of going into it, so much so that you were a story consultant on the show as well. But we'll get into that too. But let's go ahead and get started with the Q&A, because I can't wait to get started on talking about all of that. And I know these guys want to talk about it too. But let's talk about BWTF.com and how it started, where its roots were, and talk about where it's at right now. If you can give us a brief history. It doesn't even have to be a brief history. You can be however long you want it.
Well, I want to make sure everyone stays awake. So,
oh, don't worry, they will.
Way back in the ancient times when dinosaurs roamed the earth, along with we one of my main exposures to fandom online was through Usenet news groups. Alt Toys Transformers was the primary platform that I interacted with other fans on. And back then, websites were in their infancy, right? It's not like now where everybody has a Squarespace or something, right? Back then, having a website was a rare thing. Having a high-speed internet connection was a rare thing.
Yep.
I was working at NYU at the time, and I was lucky enough to, and this is not going to sound like a big deal to younger listeners, but those of us who are about our age are going to get why this is significant. I got free internet service through NYU.
Wow. Yeah, they don't know.
Yeah,
no, they don't.
56K modem to start, and then later on I got my own high speed, but 56K modem to start, all toys Transformers, all text. But this is how I started meeting fans and realizing other people still care about Transformers. Because you got to remember the state of Transformers at the time before Beast Wars, right? Hasbro / Kenner had tried Generation 2 to reinvigorate the brand, and it put it on what I would call life support. It was still there, it still existed, but it was nowhere near the monster it was in the 80s, right? And there was even about a year, I think, ish in the US where we got nothing, right? It kept going elsewhere, but not in the US. So in my mind, Transformers was kind of dead, right? And I was kind of holding a torch for this long dead thing. And to find other people who actually cared about it was amazing, because all my friends locally who I went to school with or whatever, they all fell out of it, right? They all wanted to go party and hang out and, you know, whatever, which is cool. I like those things too. But I think you can like two things at the same time.
Absolutely.
And eventually I said, oh, there's this new show coming out. Holy cow. So I actually found out about it on the news group. Someone found a listing for this strange new thing called Beast Wars Transformers that in New York City was going to air on WPIX channel 11. And no one knew what it was. There had been, back then we didn't have Fan Media Day. We didn't have toy fairs that fans could go to. We didn't have BotCon. We had nothing to tell us what was coming. Stuff just magically appeared on the shelf. And it was like, oh, that's new, right? So I watched this Beast Wars 2-episode preview, which they did in April of that year before the series aired regularly in September. And I will tell you, my mind was absolutely blown, right? Like brain just exploding. And I taped it and I rewatched it like countless times, because I kept thinking, is this thing as good as I think it is? Why am I so into this? And how is this so different than what I grew up with? And eventually at the very end of one of the episodes, I don't know if you guys remember, it says Alliance, right? Which is one of the companies that had created it. I said, oh, let me Google Alliance. Back then it was Netscape or whatever. Or something. And I looked up Alliance, and I found an email address for them, which by itself is extraordinary back in the day. I wrote to them and I said, look, I just saw this new show. I think it's incredible, and I expected no response. I expected some corporate drone to read it, pass it on to a producer, and they would kind of shrug and go, okay, that's nice. So I send this email, and I forget how many days. It was pretty quick. It might have been like one day later. I get an email from Bob Ford, who is one of the series. And Bob says, hey, Alliance forwarded this email, and I'm really glad you like our show. And he and I just started going back and forth about how the show would connect to Generation 1. Larry DiTilio eventually folds in. He and I start going back and forth. And, lest anyone thinks that, well, G1 was involved because Ben Yee was involved. I mean, I helped, but they had all that figured out ahead of time, that they wanted Generation 1 and Beast Wars to connect. They had read Generation 1 comics. They had read Generation 2 comics. They had watched the old series. So they very much went into the show thinking, nope, this is a continuation of some version of G1/G2. Maybe we haven't seen it before, but we want to acknowledge Optimus Prime, and he's not Optimus Primal and all that stuff, which, as longtime fans know, is actually contrary to what Kenner originally intended, right? Kenner wanted Megatron Gator to be the Megatron and so on. But the writer said, no, we're gonna do something a little different. And I think history tells us how well that succeeded, right? And what came out of it, exactly. And what came out of it was 3 years of wonderful back and forth collaboration. Not on every episode, but whenever a G1 thing came into play, I was contacted. the show, they were kind enough to throw in references to me. The credit that I got for the 3 episodes of Agenda was unexpected. I did not know that was happening till the decision was already made and it was already done. And Bob Forward told me, "Hey, we did this thing," and I thought, I mean, I just, to this day, it's still one of my biggest honors as a fan.
Yeah.
But somewhere in the midst of all that, I said, well, I know all this stuff, right? And I want to talk about it and I want to get the information out there, but I don't just want to post on ATT anymore. I want to post on ATT and put it on a website. So I started a website on NYU servers, but after a while, I started running out of space, right? So then I had a friend who was running a server at the time, and that was kind of a big deal back then. You ran your own server and you rented out space to people to run their own sites. So I rented out a portion of the server for what had not yet become BWTF.com. Back then it was AC Web something. Some longtime fans will remember that. And I started posting episode reviews, toy reviews, and so on. I mean, I look back on them now and I'm kind of like, oh God, that's embarrassing. But back in the day, it was, look, my teenage self, that's what I thought I wanted to communicate. And it worked.
Yeah.
It must have touched somebody, because one day my friend comes to me and goes, okay, we need to get your site off my server because you're crashing my server.
Wow. You're overloading his server.
I can believe that. Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'll get off your server. I got my own server. And I said, okay, so now I'm getting my own server. I should register a domain name, right? So I registered beastwars.net, which seemed to make sense at the time. And I ran the thing for about a year. And I started getting in touch with Hasbro via, again, Bob Ford and Larry DiTilio really did all the intros. They really helped me get my foot in the door. And then I start my relationship with Hasbro, where they would ask me about stuff, planned products, concepts, things like that. And I would give my opinion on them from a fan perspective, not just from my perspective, but from the chatter I heard online and what they would be interested in hearing. One day my Hasbro contact calls me up and says, Ben, we love your stuff. We want you to continue doing your site. I feel really bad about saying this, but you can't keep using that URL because we have to own it. It's our trademark. I had no problem with this, actually. I kind of was amazed they let me get away with it as long as they did. So I said, okay. They're like, what do you want? And the terms of that I can't disclose, but we worked it out. And and like, well, what do you want to call your new URL? Because we have to give it the thumbs up. And literally, like in 5 seconds, I said, what do you think of BWTF? Which at the time was still Beast Wars Transformers. And they said, oh yeah, that's fine. It's so nondescript, they didn't care. And that's why I did that. Now, where it eventually went, of course, Beast Wars eventually fades away. Armada comes out, other lines come out. So it couldn't be Beast Wars Transformers anymore. And that's how it became Ben's World of Transformers, which is the logo you see over my shoulder. And the site's had its ups and downs. I was part of some networks for a while. We had disagreements. I think I'm allowed to say that. And we disconnected from each other. Then I came back up. And then at least twice in my time, my servers had catastrophic failures. And I was on a dedicated server at the time, not a cloud server. So both times I lost major chunks of the site, and which I'm still restoring to this day. In my most recent incarnation, I've joined in the 21st century, I've joined a cloud-based service. So hopefully the site's reliable. I have a dear friend of mine who's helped me do a lot of the background engineering and setup. And a lot of the technical work. And so far, so good. And nowadays, I've tried to expand not just toy reviews, but I try to cover events as well, such as the Toys R Us thing I mentioned earlier. I tried to do comic books for a while, but it was just hard to keep up. And toys versus comics, toys are going to win. So if I have to review a toy or a comic, I'm always going to review the toy first. And it's been great. I mean, I'm going to be frank with everyone. I'm honest. I don't have the reach I used to. Right. There was one day where this is before I got my own server. My friend told me you got like 12 million hits in one day. Right. It's insane. Now that's not unique visitors, but still 12 million hits in 1990, whatever. Was insane.
That's crazy.
I'm not sure a lot of sites get that nowadays, actually. So nowadays, you know, it's in the tens of thousands, and I'm happy about that. And I truly appreciate everyone who does visit and comment on my stuff. And I feel very lucky to be part of fandom. And I'm very lucky that I have a job that lets me do BWTF on the side, that is very understanding when I go to events. And I have a funny story about that I can tell you guys later.
Okay.
And yeah, and just being invited to stuff like this, it marvels me. It's a marvel to me that anyone wants to talk to me about this stuff, because I feel like to some people this is the most boring stuff in the world.
We don't hang out with those kind of people, so you don't.
No, we don't. Yeah, we do this all week. We do this sometimes, you know, longer than that. You know, because we get together at events like like we just did BWTF over the summer, and we had an amazing time there, you know, doing what we do. We just did New York Comic Con. We're about to do NJCC in a couple of weeks, and yeah, man, it's been great. So, but yeah, but you know, I'll let you keep going. And
no, that was it. Please, I don't want to.
Oh, okay.
All
right.
Keep going.
So Gort, I'm gonna give you the questions, and I'm gonna let you get your questions out in a sec. But just wanted to say this. I remember back when, you know, I was going through that era where, you know, I was still wanting to watch Transformers and all that type stuff, and then Beast Wars didn't start getting really interesting to me until they introduced Starscream into the, you know, storyline in that episode of Possession. And that's when I knew back then, I was like, okay, yeah, this is absolutely going to, you know, they're going to work G1 in here somehow. And I just kept staying with it. But go back to my point and saying, yo, the Beast Wars back then, it was so well written, but you had Larry DiTillo and Bob Ford writing that. But you know, they wrote He-Man. They wrote He-Man back in the day. They wrote all the. They wrote most of the Lou Scheimer television series, Real Ghostbusters, not Real Ghostbusters, but Ghostbusters. But they played a big part in the '80s era of cartoons. So, you know, the passion behind their writing of the series and the show absolutely showed in every episode that they did. So yeah. It was very well written, and I'm still a fan of the show to this day. I still watch it. You know, you can catch it on Tubi now. I got the DVD sets for it, and you know, it's just, you know, it was just an amazing time. I always look back then as the Beast Wars as being an amazing time, that I was a Transformers fan and just got to enjoy it when it was in that era, in that moment. So yeah, but thanks for all your work that you do on the site, and thanks for putting that community together back then, because, you know, we don't know where we would be without that particular resource that you created. So
yeah, someone else would have stepped up. You would have stepped up.
I mean, even Gort, can you highlight Dormammu's last comment so that Ben can see that there?
Yep.
I mean, that's really cool. Like you were talking about it, is he's done so much stuff he doesn't realize. Like he just did this because he's a fan, and he just kind of threw it into a server and he just held on to it. But to us nerds coming in from this end, we see a guy who took passion and put stuff away that would be lost. That would all be gone now if you hadn't done that back in the day. So
yeah,
it's you're a humble guy, but that's a big deal, man.
Yeah,
that's a
really
big
deal.
I appreciate it.
Indeed. All right, go ahead, take it away.
I mean, and kind of to play into that, like kind of just the stuff that was on the site, but like one of the things I really remember finding early on were like the TV schedules, and I recorded on VHS all of the entire Beast Wars show. And I was able to do it in order because I knew when they were going to pop up, and I was able to do that, you know, fast forward and like get it, you know, right on point, shit like that. and like, you know, it was nice to be able to like rewatch a show. Like I've never been able to do that with another show ever. That was the only one I could do that with. No one did that. Like that's a legitimate service to the fans.
And there was no streaming. You couldn't just pop a DVD in or whatever. Not back then.
And it didn't happen that way.
Couldn't drag and drop to your fast forward to your favorite part and all that. You had to memorize those timestamps and all that stuff.
You had to
Bunch of pansies don't know what life is like.
You had to go and take your remote to that. You had to actually, if you didn't have the function to rewind and actually watch it and fast forward at the same time on those particular VHS tapes, VHS players, I should say, you had to actually stop it, rewind it, and then do it again. You know, we lived through that, y'all.
I remember
we lived through that.
Trying to get a copy of one of the Batman animated series episodes that I wanted, and I put the tape in. I set the timer because it was going to go off while I was at baseball practice. So I wanted it to record when I came home. I came home and I forgot to put the little wad of paper in that little pop out thing so you could record over the tape.
Oh, yeah.
So it didn't record anything, and I was so upset and I was so mad. And I think I did that more than once. Like, just forgot to put that little piece in there to block it so it would record.
Right. Yeah.
These kids nowadays, they don't know no idea, man. Just download.
No idea.
Download.
Yeah, download.
I still make my kids go in there and blow on Nintendo cartridges and use the isopropyl on the Q shot. I'm like, y'all ain't gonna forget. Y'all gonna know how we had to live. So
in the apocalypse, you'll need the skill.
Yes, you will survive because you know how to play a Contra. You know the Konami code. You're gonna make it all the way to the end, man.
Up, down, left, right, BA, select, start. Yeah, I still remember that.
Now imagine a 5-year-old popping that off at you. Your mind
will wow. Yeah. I tell my kids all the time. I say, y'all binged it. I lived it.
I waited a week for a new episode. Some show.
Yeah,
a whole week.
Kids nowadays, and then sometimes it would be the break, like between seasons. So you'd have to wait 3 months to see that cliffhanger resolution.
Best of both worlds. That cliffhanger, that hurt.
Damn. Yeah, it really
These kids don't know. They don't know crap.
They don't know nothing. You know. All right, Ricky, did you have anything for him?
Oh man, I was like, he's a good guy, and I was gonna bust his chops and be like, so now that we know Beast Wars has great storytelling, can you tell us why it's the worst Transformers? No, I don't want to do that to you. I'm just playing with you. I know a lot of people do have issue with it, and I'm be 1,000% honest. The animation is hard to go back and watch now, but that's technology. That's not the show.
Yeah,
the story is still a great story. Like if you take Beast Wars and just put it down like into a book form and just read it, it's a great story. Do you know, or has there ever been or talk of doing like a novelization or even a pure on comic run based strictly around that original show, not offshoots like their own storylines, but just a comic version of that show or games or anything like that would help feed the popularity of that show, but with newer graphics and stuff?
Just real quick, I remember there was a terrible game on PC and PlayStation.
Yes.
Yes. I remember that, but I'm trying to say positive, man.
Yeah.
The fighter one.
I don't want to talk about that.
I will actually talk about the negativity of it, because I don't think you could talk about Beast Wars without addressing that, right? Because that was a real part of our history as Transformers fans, where I will include myself in this. The first time someone on ATT wrote a description, some Hasbro person, I think they called customer service, and they like told them what was coming. And they were like, yeah, there's no more Autobots. They're called Maximals now, and everyone becomes an animal, and all our, Jazz is gone and Mirage is gone, and none of those guys are in it. Everyone online reacted very badly to this. No one was crazy about this idea, because it wholesale took everything we loved and just kind of threw it out the window, right?
Yeah,
right.
And then I saw those 2 episodes, and I realized, wait a minute, there's more to this, right? There's something here. These characters are strong. I like these characters. This story is clearly going somewhere, right? And then, of course, once I got in touch with Bob and Larry, and we began watching the show, day after day, episode after episode, we suddenly saw, oh, wait a minute, this is arc-based storytelling in Transformers, which we had never had before, right? Closest thing we had was the first few episodes, Ultimate Doom, and then later the movie leading to season 3. That's kind of the closest we had to arcs up until then.
Everything else was just episodic.
Which was the style of the time, and that was after, that was following decades of Hollywood practice. So there's nothing wrong with that. So the negativity in me went away very quickly, right? But a lot of people couldn't see past the veneer. They couldn't see past their animals now. They couldn't see past, look at this CG, right? Which, let's be real, was amazing at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Back then, that and Reboot and all that kind of around the same.
Yeah.
And I don't know if everyone remembers, but they won an Emmy for that stuff. So not shabby, you know. But a lot of people couldn't see past that because it was so different than what they knew. And I get that, because my initial reaction wasn't the most open-minded one. But after that, I almost felt bad about that initial reaction, even though I shared it literally with no one but myself and a few people on a news group. Afterwards, I said, no. I got to go the opposite way. Whatever comes from now on, I have to be grateful that this brand is surviving. It's changing with the times to get a new audience. And by that point, as crazy as this sounds, we really weren't the primary audience anymore, right?
Right.
It was kids about 5 years younger than us who were the primary audience. So I realized very quickly, okay, it's kind of adapt or walk away, right? And I decided to stay because I'm like, I love this franchise. I love this brand. I'm in this for the long haul. And that has been my attitude towards almost every iteration. So Armada came, some people walked away because they're like, it's just Pokemon for Transformers. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what's hot.
Still Transformers.
Yeah, exactly.
Still Transformers.
And it's going to change in a year. So
just relax. It'll be another one.
Yeah, hang in there. You know, and as history has shown, over the years, Kenner and Hasbro, whichever you want to call them, whichever year we're talking about, they figured it out. They were like, okay, with Beast Wars, we went too beastie, right? So we're going to come back with car robots, and it's going to kind of have a mixture, but leaning towards machinery. And it was a very classic G1-ish type series, right? Very episodic in some ways, lots of vehicles, lots of humor and shenanigans, right? So they realized, okay, this is what people kind of want. And I remember when I went to Toy Fair that year and saw all the car robots toys I already had at home being shown as robots in disguise. I said, what they kept saying to us was, vehicles are back. Optimus Prime is back. Everything is back. I'm like, yeah, okay. So we're doing that. The Beast's got 5 years and now we're going back. Right. And let's face it, we've kept going in that direction ever since. So in the end, the folks who wanted the vehicles and everything, you kind of won. I mean, most of Transformers history is vehicles. It wasn't until Kingdom, right, that we finally got Beast Wars kind of front and center in any way again. So the negativity was understandable. I don't blame people who couldn't jive with it. Hey, I am not going to sit here and tell you that I love every single aspect of Transformers, right? There's some stuff that KISS players that makes me go, wow, really? We're doing that, right?
No.
When I saw Legion in the manga for the first time, I was embarrassed. I sat there and I went, is this real? And I realized it was real, and I said, all right.
Yeah. All right.
Action figures are cool.
Right.
Out of it, right? What are you going to do? But hey, if you're into KISS players, hey, more power to you. The way I see it, as long as no one's getting hurt and you're enjoying yourself and the brand is getting some love, I'm good. So that's kind of like what I would say to anyone who kind of didn't like Beast Wars back then or now. You don't have to. You got plenty of other stuff to like.
Right.
It's weird as back then the story, I didn't like the story. Back then I'm like 14, 15. It's sports time. It's girls. It's hormones. But I liked the concept of the animals. And of course, then in 1994, 95, like mind-blowing 3D rendered figures, it was okay. I was great with all that part. It was the story. I'm like, oh my God, this is like trying to read my way through Shakespeare after 2 hours of sleep the night before. It was like, to me, it was like so like highbrow, and where I was at was not that at all. I was girls, football, and Transformers was way down that line. But now looking back, it's completely flipped. the visuals of it. It's almost 30 years old. It's not gonna look as good as it did back then. But now the storyline really, like I said, really drives it. It is a great story. It's very, I guess, like, making up a term, like Macbethian. Like, there's a lot of Shakespearean elements to that story, like the concepts of what they're talking about and moving through and stuff. And I just thought that was cool. And I do like how you just kind of, hey man, they transform into liver and onions. I don't care. They're transformers. We're gonna survive this, and we'll move on to the next one.
Move on to the next thing. Yeah,
Transformers, and we did, and here we are now, all these years later. And I'm one of the few people that have you ever looked back at G1? Those are some doofy looking robots. Like, they were doofy looking. They don't make a lot of sense, even from an engineering aspect. Look at the figures that we have. Yeah. These $200 masterpiece figures, they have to like explode into millions of little pieces and come back together to form something that you thought it was going to be. It didn't just go doop, 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 doop. It was a whole other thing. Like, it conceptually didn't make sense. But they, so the people that hate it just because it ain't it is BotBots. There you go.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Yeah. I could go on for 10 minutes about how much I love BotBots, but that's
Transformers Juniors.
Cool. So while we're doing while we're still asking questions, I see Dormammu had a question in the chat.
Yeah.
And if y'all have any questions that y'all want to ask Ben in the chat, please feel free to do so. So Dormammu says, Ben, did Mainframe ever ask questions to you when the seasons evolved? For example, I think of the transmetal designs as comparisons of power-ups against G1.
I didn't have any impact on that because that was all between Hasbro and Mainframe. And you guys will notice that season 1, the toy designs really didn't look like what was on screen, except with a couple of exceptions, right? But the animators really took a lot of liberties, right, with the design, and for the better, honestly, in my opinion. But you notice in season 2 how much more all the transmetals actually look like the toy. That was a direct result of Hasbro saying, no, we need stuff to look more like what we're trying to sell in stores, which totally understandable, right? But did I continue to have input? Absolutely. All the way up to the last episode, I had input. Not in every single episode, but whenever a G1-ish type element would come up, even if it was just a cute reference, they would come to me. So perfect example. Some folks know this story, some folks don't. So pardon me if you guys know this and it's boring. There's an episode where Waspinator goes a little loopy and he's flying around and he thinks he's
Wonko the Sane.
And he calls himself Wonko the Sane. Yes.
Yeah.
A month before that episode was written and animated and everything, Bob asked me, I need a list of Transformers with distinctive speech patterns. That was the ask. And there wasn't any context. He just said, I need speech patterns. So I gave him Warpath. I gave him Shrapnel was one of the ones I gave him. Anyone who kind of had a verbal tick or something like that, right? Yeah. And then later he clarified, okay, there's this scene where Waspinator kind of goes a little loopy and, we think it's going to be Shrapnel or whatever. I think like pretty much it was either like the first choice he made was the one I agreed with or second. It was the first or the second, but it made sense because I was like, well, he's a bug and he's a bug. So that actually works out really well. And then came that wonderful scene. And that's why Waspinator repeats the Shrapnel and has the verbal tick in that scene because he historically, I guess they have records that indicate how Shrapnel spoke and he actually thought he was that for a bit. The Wonko the Sane part did not know about until it actually happened.
Is that a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference, the Wonko the Sane?
Nice. So my scene name in ATT was Wonko the Sane.
Nice.
And I Hitchhiker's Galaxy, it's Guide to the Galaxy is a book I reread about once a year. I love that book.
Okay, me and Ben just became best friends. You two can leave. We're just going to talk about Hitchhiker's Guide because I read through all 5 books of the trilogy at least once per year because that is one of my favorite things ever to read. That and The Dark Team Time for the Soul. Like, I am a huge fan of Douglas Adams. So you two go away. We're done. Beast Wars is awesome. You guys go away. On to the good stuff.
Only people.
Oh wow! Hey Gord, look who finally showed up. Yeah, Ricky's finally here now. The real Ricky is here now. So yeah, okay, all right. Who was that other guy?
I didn't answer a question I think Ricky asked before about books and stuff. Books are. you guys have probably noticed this. Books historically after Generation 1 are a very neglected part of Transformers. And I will tell you, every time I see Hasbro at an event or something like Comic-Con or something like that, I give them an earful about it, because I tell them, look, guys, it's money on the table. I think part of the challenge is finding a publisher, because they can't do it themselves, right? They're not a book publisher. So you need to find a publisher who's going to sign on for it. And oddly, despite the fact that it's billion-dollar property or whatever in the world, right? Not a lot of book publishers want to latch on to Transformers. I think they've done some for like Rescue Bots books, like for kids.
But I think they did movie adaptations too, like live action stuff.
But that's it. Like, I mean, come on. All that box art we've been getting in the War for Cybertron series, like the secret box art, all that. Imagine a coffee table book of that stuff.
It screams tell a story from this picture.
Yeah. The television shows with like some of the gorgeous animation, like Transformers Prime. I know it had a book, stuff like that. You know, you've got all this raw material, put it in a book. We want this stuff. Years ago, a friend of mine, Matthew Reinhardt, he did the Transformers pop-up book, which was like G1 based. And I don't know if you guys have that book, but it's a wonderful book because he's a big fan from way back when, and he threw in a lot of obscure stuff. So Skyquake is in there, Scrounge is in there, you know, like all the characters with it. You know, we haven't had toys of it in years, except for Scrounge, but
still waiting for
that kind of stuff. I keep telling Hasbro, look, I know maybe it's tough getting a publisher to jump on, but there's got to be a way to do it, because there's so much good material out there that I think fans would love to have. And unfortunately, you know, even if they did sign a publisher today, whatever the kids brand is and G1 are
going to be the push.
First. Yeah. Then the movies. Right. Then if we're lucky, Beast Wars might follow after that. So unfortunately, in the if you would imagine a line of properties under Transformers and their priority, Beast Wars is always going to be like 4th or 5th behind the other
ones. Wow,
that's too bad. Ben did ask. Ben Dormammu did ask another one. He said, Ben, how do you feel about the fact that it took about 20 plus years before we saw our first Takara MP Beast Wars with Optimus Primal, and was it worth the wait in your opinion?
I don't feel great that it took 20 years, but I do think it was worth it, because you know what? If you look back 20 years and look where style was for Transformers, where engineering was for Transformers, I don't think they could have created the Primal we got. Part of the reason for that is, I don't know if it's Takara or Hasbro, but somebody in the powers that be were very hung up on die-cast metal being in Masterpiece. Primal doesn't need any die-cast metal, right? In fact, it makes it harder to make the figure because he's so organic looking. Rounded, right? Maybe, I don't know, maybe in a chest plate to like hold everything in the center, I could imagine that, but he doesn't need it. That Masterpiece Primal is a work of art. I love that figure, and actually all the other ones. And Megatron is a work of art for the most part, although the cracked crotch thing really bothered me. But other than that, that's a quality control thing, not a design thing. I think it's great that we finally got him. What only makes me sad is they seem to have a really good momentum going for a while with the Beast Wars Masterpiece, and then it just came to a screeching halt.
And you started doing the Tigertron repaints and stuff, like the Cheetor repaints.
Well, I think what happened maybe is, because you got to remember, whatever we're seeing on shelf now, they're 2 to 3 years ahead of us, right? Planning wise. So they probably thought, we're going to do this Kingdom thing, and it's going to be beasts all over the place. So, you know, if we put a deluxe class Black Arachnia out that looks great, and a Masterpiece Black Arachnia, well, they're going to start, you know, cannibalizing sales off of each other. My guess, this is purely a guess, is that they decided, all right, you know what? Let's switch gears, go back to G1 with Masterpiece, and let Kingdom do its thing with the Beast. So I'm hoping that in the coming years, with Legacy kind of leaning more towards vehicles now, I'm hoping they resume Masterpiece Beast Wars, because I would really like to see more of those.
Okay. All right, man. Such a good show tonight, man. You know, again, for those of y'all that just joining on, we have Ben Yee from BWTF.com. Take time to visit the site. If you're not familiar with the site, I'm telling you, you are in for a treat. Check it out. He does figure reviews as well, as well as give us Transformers news as much as we could, as much as he can, So yeah, check that out when you get a chance. So one more thing I wanted to talk about in regards to the old show back in. So the transition between Beast Wars and Beast Machines. So yeah, we're gonna have to talk. We got to talk about that. So now just so you know, me and Bob Scare got into it. So if y'all had a conversation about, I think I told you about that when we were talking last week. So I didn't understand it at the time, because I was so I was deeply rooted into the Beast Wars series at that point, where when Beast Machines came out, I thought it was just going to be that story continued just on Cybertron, but so much had changed in regards to that story. Not only did the story change, but the characters kind of changed. Not in who the characters, they still had the same characters, however, their personalities changed. So it was a difficult thing to deal. It was difficult. It was a difficult thing for me to grasp. Okay, they're not the same as they were. They're not the same as they were on Earth that they were now, and that's what made it hard for me to say. I still stuck with it. I still watched it and all that, but it was just so hard. What did you feel? How did you feel about that transition between Beast Wars and Beast Machines?
It was an interesting time for me because obviously Bob Ford and Larry DeTilio did not carry over to Beast Machines.
Right.
I think they had put forth their own proposal for it, and like a season 4 of Beast Wars, and it didn't go through, and then they exited stage left. Right. Bob Skier came in, and he kind of got his own fan consultant, and I then had to exit stage left. Right. So I still got press stuff from Mainframe Entertainment, but I was effectively locked out of the writing room, as it were.
And it showed.
Well,
just saying.
Here, and I did communicate a couple times back then, and he was very nice to me. He was never like dismissive or anything. It's just there was another fan who stepped in and tried to give him tracks to go on. And I think the good thing about the precedent that Bob, Larry, and I had set down is that a fan could help contribute stuff to a Transformers show. And I think that's why we got the G1 elements we did, the plasma energy chamber, things like that. And how well they worked, that's in a matter of opinion. I think they definitely did things I didn't expect with them. And I appreciated the acknowledgement of that, because we already acknowledged that this takes place in a G1/G2 continuation. So let's see that. Because we never got to see that really, much in Beast Wars. But it was a weird transition for me, because now here was this mainframe beast-based show, and I was watching from the outside, right?
Yeah.
And I was with you guys at that point. I had no idea what was coming. I had no idea who was it that suggested the plasma energy chamber I'm saying back in the 90s, I didn't know. Who suggested that to him? What context did they give him? Because it was used in a very different context than it was. Right. So I didn't know any of that. And some of that I actually still don't know, honestly. But it was weird for me. And emotionally, I had to detach from it, because, you spend 3 years being attached to a show and talking about it every day, not just with fans, but with people behind the scenes. You develop a certain attachment to it. And when that ended with Beast Machines, emotionally, I had to set that aside. Now, what I will tell you that kind of came in, enter stage right, at that time is my association, with Kenner/Hasbro grew. And I started talking to them more. So that kind of filled in the gap a little. So I started kind of not really affecting is a strong word, but nudged things on that side of the equation a little bit, which was nice. Now, in terms of the actual story, how did I feel about it? I saw the first episode when they showed it at BotCon, and I really liked it. But if you think about the first episode, not a whole lot happens, right? Yet with the story arc, right? We see it establishes here's your threat. Our heroes have new bodies. Go, right? There was still a lot of mystery at that time, and as the episodes progressed, and I think I told Bob Skier this myself once. The character I perhaps had the biggest issue with was Rat Trap.
Yeah, because that was a big personality shift.
I feel that out of all the characters, Rat Trap was the one that changed the most.
Yep.
And we could chalk that up to the circumstances he was in or whatever. That's fine. But I still feel this way to this day. I think the show might have been more well received, including by myself, if Primal had still remained the leader, but he had to team up with a whole new group of Maximals. That way, they all have blank person. We don't know any of these new guys, right? And think about it: the toy line had so many Maximals, Skydive, right? Quick Strike, all these Maximals that never made it into the show. What if they were the stars instead?
Right.
And a whole new set of characters, but our link to Beast Wars is Primal, and you could still do the whole thing of the spoiler alert, the Maximals becoming Cons, right? You could still do that, and then it becomes partly about Primal rescuing his fallen comrades who have basically been taken by his greatest enemy. But that's me fanboying. That's not the story Bob Skier wanted to tell.
Yeah.
And he wanted to tell a story about extremism and how it's not good on either side of the equation. He wanted to tell a story where the good guy goes on the edge of becoming the bad guy, right? And how Primal's not always right. And that's the story he told. And if you look at it from that context, he succeeded because he absolutely did that. But it was a lot to take. And I think part of it is also the format. It's a kids animated show at the end of the day.
Sure.
We didn't get like 5 seasons of character development to lead them up to that. We got 6-ish episodes before we realized Primal had gone loopy, and so had Megatron. And that's
Cheeto had to take over.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge shift for us. And we were still teens-ish at the time, right? So we're teens-ish, college age. We're still trying
to... we were college age, yeah.
We're trying to figure out, like, well, what happened? Because I remember in Beast Wars, this character was brave, and now he's a coward.
Right. And then with the lack of him not having anybody to feed off of, like a Dinobot or even a Death Charge, because those are the two that, that antagonized him to be who he was. And so that character didn't exist in Beast Machine. So you got, as a result of that, you got that version of Rat Trap. So it was just like, ugh, I don't like this,
So there's some stuff that I still to this day have reservations about. But I will say this, as I'm older and I'm looking at the show and I get what Bob Skier is trying to do, it plays better to me now than it did back then. I think it's actually a very mature series. And it does take on some interesting themes, which are relevant to this day, but I think there were missteps, and I can't blame Bob Skier for it all, right? Because at the end of the day, you got to remember, Hasbro handed him a bunch of toys and said, these are the ones we want you to sell.
Yeah.
Eeyore was there, Rat Trap was there. So maybe he would have loved to have Quick Strike in there or Skydive and never had the chance to, At the end of the day, this thing was made to sell toys, although we could talk an hour on how well it did that.
Yeah. Domamu asked in the chat, and you've already alluded to this a little bit. Ben, were there ever characters you would have loved to see translated from the toy line into the Beast Wars series? Okay. So, yes. Were there any G1? I don't know if let me know if I'm wrong, Dormammu. But are you talking about G1 characters?
I think he's saying Beast Wars toys that were released that weren't in the show. He's
right.
Any that he wish had been in the show.
Gotcha.
Oh God, all of them. No,
thanks, Rick.
All of them's a cheap answer. Here, let me outrageous ones. All right. In no way they had the budget for this. I would have loved to see the Arachnid and Orkanok bases actually used in the show. That would have just been freaking insane. Like Orkanok would have basically been like a submarine base, and then he could transform into a battle station. That would have been insane to see. Can you just imagine Orcadoc, like, which is basically a sliced up whale on land with all these gun emplacements, and then like this giant spider thing kind of coming at him, on the ground, like kaiju style? That would have been nuts. And again, no way they could have afforded that. And Angry Viking said it: Magnaboss, Tripredicus as a combiner, not just as three dudes hanging around a table. I would imagine that animation, just three of these beasts just combining into this giant robot on the battlefield. Would have been like the height of Blue Streak.
Some of those characters, like the two combiners there, they were in Beast Wars 2, which was a treat to see.
He mentioned Angry Viking mentioned Magnaboss. Magnaboss was in Beast Wars 2.
I know Gort had a question too.
Well, because you mentioned that you'd gotten away from like the writing end of things or like input like that, but getting on the side of Hasbro, I know you had a hand with Flame War. Could you talk about that one?
Yes,
a little bit. First, full credit to Fun Publications for even letting me get involved in the planning of BotCon. So as longtime fans know, 3H eventually gave away to Fun Publications in terms of ran BotCon for several years. And that first year, Hasbro kind of introduced me to Brian Savage and said, look, he's done JoeCon, but he doesn't do Transformers. So he needs kind of a guiding hand. And others, came in later on as well. But I was one of the first people he was linked up with because Hasbro knew they could trust me to understand kind of the business side of things and the fan side of things and balance them out. So that first year, we didn't have a lot of time to come up with the Descent into Evil box set. I mean, we had, ideally, you want 9 to 12 months to come up with something like that. I think we had like 6 to 8. So almost half the amount of time, right? So it was like, all right, what tooling is available? All right, how fast can we manufacture this thing? Flame War was originally conceived to be a team of Decepticons. She was originally supposed to be 3 bikes, right? They were all going to be based off the Energon RC sculpt because that's really all we had at the time. But in my pie in the sky dream, there would have been slight retooling on 2 of them, like to give them like spikes and stuff and different heads. So they would be like a biker gang that served Megatron. They were like his personal elite guard. Like you think the Seekers are his elite guard, but they're so busy arguing amongst themselves. He like turns to these 3 and goes, no, I really need this thing done. These yahoos are still arguing with each other. So I need you guys to do this. And they would, that was the original idea. Unfortunately, it's a cost issue. We couldn't make 3 of these. So they got condensed into the character of Flame War. And for those who attended the convention or know about it, when you bought the box set, you got Flame War as a freebie figure. So because she was a freebie figure and we weren't making money off of it, really, she couldn't have like new tooling. So that's why she's just a direct redeco of Energon RC. But it worked out, with that deco, which yes, I came up with because red and black is one of my favorite robot color combination colors. So she's got the red, she's got the black, and we're gonna call her Flame War. I literally wanted her to have flames on her. Let me dispel the notion that Flame War is based on any specific fan. I know why people think that. She is not. What did I name her after? I named her after what I witnessed day to day, not just on Transformers boards, but Star Trek boards, Star Wars boards. I named her after what seemed to be the sci-fi fans' most favorite pastime, Flame Wars. That's what she's named after. And I wrote her as this super loyal Decepticon because one thing I think that, let's put Beast Wars aside, but in G1 that we rarely got to see was a Decepticon who was wholly dedicated to the cause, right? Some guys had doubts, then you had Starscream, then you had guys who seemed to be in it for themselves. I was like, no way did Megatron beat all these Autobots and take over most of Cybertron with just these guys. Right? There must have been legions following him that were true believers and said, nope, we believe you 1000%. We are in. And I wanted one of those characters to be in canon. And that's why she's super loyal to him and everything, almost psychotically so. And
so like the later on the DJD type, like that true zealots, like
true believer. And thank you for that. I actually appreciate that. Loyal Decepticons started a long time ago. And Angry Vikings got it. That was it exactly. When the toy came out, fun side story. So as you guys know, whenever a toy is made, the company, or in this case, Fun Publications, you always get samples, production samples to evaluate, make sure the tolerances are good, make sure the deco is good, right? Problem: the first one we get has an Autobot symbol on it.
Oh wow!
Whoopsies, guys.
So Brian tells, and this is back when stuff took time to get from China to us or whatever, So Brian's like, all right, so if we can't fix this, can you write a way out of this? And because I wrote the comic book that year as well. And I said, sure. I mean, you can throw in a conceit for almost anything as long as you're just confident that you try to sell it. So the conceit would have been, if we hadn't been able to fix it, that she had just been undercover and just hadn't changed her symbol yet.
Okay.
We were throwing some really clunky dialogue around that. Fortunately, as everyone who owns a Flame War knows, they did fix it. I do, however, actually have one of those with the Autobot symbol on it, and it is on my site. Like if you look at my Flame War review, I do have a photo of her with the Autobot symbol instead of just.
Let me pull that.
That's pretty cool. So that's gonna be like a one of a kind. Like nobody would ever have that unless they do it themselves.
In existence.
Up and up when I see Derek.
Yeah, there's only a handful of them in existence. And then, of course, I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole litany. I have a video on that if anyone wants to watch it. But Flame War is now coming out as part of Shattered Glass.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That took me by surprise. Hasbro was kind enough to give me an early sample for review, so that's up on my site.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
She's appeared in video games. She's appeared in 2-3 different versions of the comic books, including IDW's most recent. I cannot believe that a thing I conceived of has this kind of life. To me, it's a pinch me. I feel like I'm going to wake up and go, no, that didn't happen.
I think it might be more of the how positive you are with the Transformers, like we were talking about earlier about it's Transformers. So I'm going to love it because it'll be something that even if I'm not a huge fan of it, it'll be back to where it needs to be. Maybe all that positivity you put out, this was the universe turning it back to you, man. Something that you had a passion for, took that respect and put it back to you. I mean, something like that. Like I'm big on positive energy into the universe, and that could just be a payout and you didn't even realize it.
I appreciate that. I work really hard to be positive about the brand, and it's tough sometimes because you go online and there's just so much negativity about the brand. And I'm not saying it's a perfect brand. There's no such thing as a perfect brand. Star Wars, Marvel, none of it's perfect.
Batman.
So much Batman. So much Batman.
Hey, pull up that graphic, Gort.
Yeah. There we go.
Wow.
There she is.
Yeah, there she is.
You know what, Ricky? There's all this Batman. I still do not have a Batman figure based on Mignola's art, Brayfogel's art. Those guys, I mean, those are the guys I grew up with. I wish we would get artwork, like figures of them. When Diamond was doing that series of
the black and white and stuff,
the black and white, and they were doing a series based on designers, like
the designer series. Yeah.
I was so hoping that was going to go into that territory, and they never went there. Like, there's like 50 Scott Snyder Batmans.
Yeah, I think I got like 2 Capullo versions around here somewhere. Yeah,
but man, if they put out, like, if they just did a Mignola series of superheroes, I would just pre-order the entire damn line. Like, like we're gonna do Mignola figures, done. We're gonna do Brayfogle figures, done.
Nice. Oh, Ben, I'm telling you guys, this is my new best friend. Forget you guys. I'm going to show with this guy. He's all about Batman and Hitchhiker's Guides. You guys are done.
Wow.
I'm unfriending you guys as we speak, man. I'm only going to this guy on Facebook. But this is really cool. Like this character that you got to create and stuff. Like, so the way you were trying to talk about it is you couldn't really make any massive decisions about the design of her toy. They were just like, look, you want her to be this person, this is a toy we have, we're going to paint it in that deco. That was pretty much your only input was allowed on that.
I think what we were given was a year range. Like, you have the last 3 years of toys to look at. Those are the tools we can get our hands on immediately. And remember, immediacy was key at that point. And so I said, well, I mean, if you want to do a female character, think about 2005-ish, 4-ish, actually, we were planning this. So think about 2004. How many female sculpts did we really have to choose from, right?
2, 3.
What I didn't want to do was take a quote unquote male. Let's not even get into the gender debate, but let's say a coded male toy, right? That Hasbro would officially call a he. We'll call it that way. Any of those toys, and I didn't want to take them and say, okay, this is a biker gang inspired thing. Like, I can't take Hotshot and convince anyone he was in a biker gang.
No, I'm not gonna sell that character.
So I was like, no, I want, because to me, and it wasn't just about the female form, it was also about the vehicle form. I wanted a motorcycle. I wanted a sleek, dangerous looking character. I wanted her to look like she could fight you head to head, but also sneak into an Autobot base, get intel, and get out without being seen. I wanted her to have both those features. And I think, I mean, by today's standards, it's a bit chunky, but hey, for its time, that Energon RC figure was awesome. And you got the picture up now. I honestly think that figure holds up to this day. I mean, the colors especially are gorgeous on that figure.
I tell you, it doesn't. I don't think it's that far off of what we're getting now. Like even like the mainline RC and paramedic and all that, when you transform them, it's not that much, further removed, look wise, like of the silhouette and stuff. So they were pretty spot on even back then.
Yeah, I'm always gonna love this RC mode right here, man.
Huge kudos. Yeah. Huge kudos to the guys who worked on the toys at Fun Publications. Those decos that we got at BotCon over the years, even if the figure, that was only okay, those decos would elevate those figures. And it proves something, I believe, as an action figure collector. You could take a B- action figure and you give it a killer deco and it can be an A figure.
Yep.
Because your eyes will trick you. The eyes are going to trick you into thinking it's awesome.
Yep.
Before you start touching it and stuff. Yeah.
It's all about that visual representation.
Yeah. Before you take it out of the box, you're looking at it, right?
Yeah.
Well, back then.
Yeah. Used to. All the good old days.
Back in the bubble days, you would look at remember like when action figure design went crazy, like during the McFarlane era and when Art Asylum was just starting out and all that stuff. I mean, they went nuts with those sculpts and we got decos that we had never seen before. Remember Spray Ops? We don't get those much anymore. But man, back then everything had them and they looked amazing.
Yeah. So are there plans like in the more modern stuff? Are they keeping this deco going, this character going in like the modern toy lines and stuff? Have you heard anything like that, or have they said anything about it?
So Shattered Glass,
Shattered Glass
is not even out yet. So this is a preview that you guys are getting who are watching right now. She's due out soon. Pre-orders went up months ago. So that's going to be like the next step. And I mean, they've released one like something about her either in a video game or an action figure almost every other year, I feel like, in the past decade. So she's been floating around, and I think honestly, this is Hasbro. They're going to retool. They have to amortize the cost of those tools, right? I would not be shocked, because this is a Pulse exclusive. I would not be shocked if she showed up as another type of exclusive, STC or something like that one day, because this is supposed to be the alt universe version of her. You could just stick a Repro Labels Decepticon symbol on her, and and she's the official one. But I wouldn't be shocked if in the future they did a quote unquote official G1 universe, legacy universe version of her as the Decepticon loyal to Megatron.
All right.
I hope
cool.
All right. So I'm gonna come over to the chat real quick. Brink, who's a awesome contributor to our show, he said he has a legend scale flame boy, used to keep it at his desk at work. Despots. Yeah, what we all love is Despots. Yeah, we love.
I would just like a desk. I got plenty of bots, but they won't let me keep a desk in the kitchen.
Need another desk.
Yeah.
Actually, that Legends class Flame War is the funny thing. At that time, it was weird. That was when Toy Fair was still happening, right? So you go to Toy Fair every year. They would show you roughly wave 1 and 2 of what to expect, but they would never really show you the other waves, right? Usually in the past, we would get like press releases or things that would show us those, but Legends kind of got neglected a lot. So I didn't know that figure was being made. And then so this is kind of like old school, right? So one day I walk into Target and I look on the shelf and I see her and I'm like, oh, what's this RC redeco? And then I see the name. I like,
wow.
It's like, are you kidding me? And I showed it
like
to
a double take on it.
Like, and my girlfriend didn't know the Flame War story yet at that time. That's why she's still my girlfriend. And so I was like, I need to explain to you why I'm freaking out right now. So I told her like what that represented. Think about how insane it must be to you create a character and then years later, 10 years later, whatever, there's a character of her at mass retail hanging on a peg in Target. The gap between point A to point B on that, it just blows my mind. I can't, again, pinch me, I still can't believe that happened. I don't know if you guys play Earth Wars at all, but that's a mobile game for Transformers. And when they introduced Flame War in there, Simon Furman actually writes for them, and he's a dear friend. He actually wrote in a reference to my name when they introduced Flame War into there. And again, the funny part is, did not know that was happening. No one told me. And then one day someone on Twitter tagged me and was like, hey, Ben, have you seen this? And they screenshotted it, and it had Flame War in it. I was like, oh yeah, great, Flame War's in the game, yay. And then the next screenshot was my name in the dialogue between two characters, and I was like, what is happening right now? And I wrote to Simon immediately, and I was like, oh my God, Simon, thank you so much, that's so cool. And he was like, so gracious as always, and welcome, it seemed right. That's why, by the way, Angry Vikings is saying by the Ben of Ye, because that was the phrase used in the game. So no one knows what a Cybertronian Ben or a Ye is, but it's out there.
Little they know, I do know, and it's right here.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah. There you go.
I got it that time.
Yeah. I got into Earth Wars when it first started out, but it didn't hold interest to me because I was still mad about Transformers Legends getting canceled at the time. It was just like, I y'all don't know. Y'all don't even understand how much money I spent in Transformers Legends.
Did you?
Anyway. Oh my goodness, man.
I did free to play the whole time on that. So.
I mean, you could do free to play, but there was stuff that you could pay for, and man, and then also I was just supporting Dan at the same time too, because Dan did most of the art for most of the characters in that line. So it's like I'm speaking about artist Dan Connor, yeah, Dan Connor, yeah, because Dan did most of the art for that one. I wouldn't be surprised if he did some of the art for Earth Wars too, but no, he didn't.
No, Earth Wars has its own internal team.
Right, yeah, but he did do Transformers Legends, and I'm such a huge fan of Dan's art. When he does stuff, I even get him to commission stuff for me, and it's always great. But
talk about coffee table book. Every piece of art from that game.
Yes.
Coffee table book.
Yes, absolutely. And I got most of it. I just need to get a book so I can put all of it into it. I got so much of Dan's work. It's insane, man. Because Sean would be looking at me, you got to put this stuff in the book. I said, I know, but I know I got to get more stuff. So I don't want to buy a book and then have to go get another book because I'm still buying art from him. So
you got to start volume
1. Right? Yeah, I got to do something about it. But yeah, Dan is absolutely one of my favorite artists. Next to so you got Dan. Livio is another good one. You got Casey Collier, and then you got Andrew out there doing this thing. The Joshes. Yeah, you got Josh Bertram, and then you got Josh Perez. I mean, all of those guys, I love what they do, and I'm not heavy into buying a whole bunch of art, because I spend it on this crap, this shit. But it's like,
you speak with respect when you talk about Transformers, sir.
I'm still talking about Transformers because it's Transformers art,
right?
Yeah, you meant the shells, the Module K shit shells, man.
Right. But it was just like, man, I do need to get a book so I can just sit it on the table or something, and just let people just look at it, because I want to put some up on the wall, but I can't possibly put everything up on the wall. So I got to get a book for it. So real quick, because I know we gotta wrap up soon, but we were talking about New York Comic-Con. We were at the premiere for Transformers Earthspark. Now, this is, one of those shows that is classified for the kids and, all that type of stuff. But man, when they showed that first episode, I was all in. I was like, yo, especially with the cliffhanger at the end. I was like, oh no. Now that's going to premiere on Paramount next month. What did you think about it? I know you did a review on it, but what did you think? What did you think about the premiere?
So funny part, I did the review, and then they reached out to me yesterday and told me I had to take it down because of embargo. And I said to them, I was like, but they showed it to us at Comic-Con. Like, no one said anything about an embargo at Comic-Con, but they were like, could you do this for us as a courtesy? And I was like, yeah, okay. Look, first of all, it's been up for a few days. Most people who would have jumped all over it initially have jumped all over it, and it'll be back in a couple weeks. First of all, super cool that they showed it to us, because again, it reminded me of those BWTF days, right, where we got to look at the first episode like weeks or whatever months before it came out. First off, love a lot of the voice talent, because I'm very familiar with a lot of their other work. Alan Tudyk, I've loved forever. Firefly, Diedrich Bader. I've seen him in like 100 things. I would never have thought of him as a villain.
Raven the Bold.
That's not the role. I would have probably cast him as the dad before the villain, in my mind. But he does a great job, I think.
He does.
The kids were adorable, like, so great to see young talent coming up. And I think the voice work was really solid. It's just one of the things that struck me. And the animation, I think, strikes a really good balance between what we got used to with Transformers Prime, right, in terms of CG, but also a style that will appeal to kids. And that's a tough balance, right? Because Rescue Bots went all the way into kiddie territory, which is exactly what it was designed to do.
Right.
Then Cyberverse started bringing us back towards G1 territory, right? Which was great. And that's what it was meant to do. And now I think this is elevating it yet again. Like, here's this CG show, which clearly costs some money. And let's make sure we invest in the models, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know we're getting a deluxe or whatever of that Megatron. I want a freaking like Voyager of that Megatron, because I love that design so much. The Alita one, I can't wait to get that. That RC better get a toy. She didn't appear in the first episode, but she's in the trailers. The other thing I love the family focus of the show. I love the kids being the focal point, because this is obviously an entry point for kids, right? So you need to give them those characters to relate to. We had Spike, or other generations after us had Rad and Alexis and all these other characters. Now a new generation has their Spike, their Rad. And you know what? I always say this about entertainment. The kids did not annoy me for the entire episode, so they did it right.
Right. Kicker.
Writing kids is tricky, right? Because it's adults doing it, and maybe not adults who have a lot of experience with kids sometimes. So maybe they write kids as characters, which is what we got a lot in the past. I think this was much better. I love the mother, Dot. I love that character. And the father is basically us, which is not something I realized that day. And then I thought about it. I was like, oh, Transformers. He knows Transformers. He reads books. He's us.
He is absolutely us, man. He is absolutely us, man. But Angry Vikings, because he said, because we were talking about annoying characters. Now I will say, Miko in Prime. She first season. Oh, I couldn't stand Miko. I was like, yo, this kid need to go. But after a while, when she blended in a lot better with, with the records and all that, it was like I could dig Miko, especially when she got in that suit. But getting back to this, and then Rad and Kick. I couldn't stand. Oh my god, I couldn't stand Kicker. From that was from Energon. So yeah, but I'm really loving the way they're doing this show. It was a perfect blend of doing everything and getting every part of the audience involved in that show. Because when we were in, I'm looking in the crowd, and particularly towards the end of it, and it looked like everyone was into it. I mean, it was everyone was into it. It was just like adults, the kids, and the teenage. It looked like everybody was in it. They're gonna win with this one. I truly believe that one.
And now we buried the lead, Derek, because and I think I could talk about this without embargo problems or anything. That G1 inspired sequence was amazing.
Yeah. The animation for it and everything. Oh my goodness.
As soon as Cybertron appears on the screen, you heard the entire audience in the room gasp and then start laughing, and there were some claps, and everyone was like, because none of us knew that was coming, right?
Nope.
So we see it and we're like, what is happening here? I hope you remember this, Derek. When Cybertron appears on the screen, the aspect ratio of the screen narrowed. So like the 80s.
Yep. Sure did.
And that whole kind of G1-esque flashback is very much like what Beast Wars did with Possession, right? It's the writers saying, "Hey, G1 guys, we see you." Right? And Nicole Dubek, who was involved for the last decade in Rescue Bots, is involved in this show. She's one of the main people behind it. She has a healthy respect for that, because if you look at even Rescue Bots, which was aimed at a generation which had no idea what the heck G1 was, there's a lot of G1 and even some Beast Wars nods in that series. So it's no surprise that she tried to find a way to work it in here. And I think it's a wonderful tip of the hat to us, right? To say, guys, thank you for being here. Let's give you a little treat. And what also surprised me was how meta and how much they nailed certain things. Like the father saying that Bumblebee is his favorite Transformer. Clearly a meta reference, right? And the some of the jokes in there, like the kids saying the lines from the movie and things like that. I mean, that was fire stuff, because we've all done that. We as fans, when we were kids, we took our Prime and our Megatron and we said words for them and we bashed them into each other. That was basically what they were doing in storytelling form. I thought that was absolutely wonderful. And I really do want to see what's going on with the show, because it's one of the few shows that takes place after the Great War. And we don't see that much in cartoons.
Right. Which is what made that cliffhanger so interesting, because I can't wait. November, man, telling you, I already got Paramount. I'm ready. I already got Paramount. I'm good to go. I'm like, yo, let's get it. So Ricky, I know you had another one for him too, so let's get it.
All right, so I wanted to play a game with you, but before we can play the game, I have to ask you a question first. Are you a collector of either Transformers, mainline, Masterpiece, or action figures, anything like that? Are you a collector?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So then we can play part one of the game. Is house is on fire, you can only grab one and take it with you. What is it?
I played this game. And I actually have an answer for it. It's my G1 Fortress Maximus.
Nice.
I will tell you guys why. Many years ago, when I was a wee lad, hanging out in Chinatown with my parents in New York City, there was a store not too far from on the Bowery, right off the Bowery, and they had a lot of Transformers toys, G1 stuff. And I went there all the time to look, because my parents never bought me anything in that store. And one day, Fortress Maximus comes in, and they just have this box. Now, the box, dude, the box was taller than me at the time.
Yeah, huge.
Or at least it seemed that way. It was on a pedestal. And I remember, we had no Toy Fair back then, no fan media, nothing. I had no idea what this amazing giant thing was, except that it said Transformers on it, and I wanted it. That store would go on to burn down. So,
ironic.
Sad. Fast forward to, oh gosh, how old was I? It was about 1989-ish. Okay, so I'm roughly 16 years old. I have a part-time job. I'm making cash under the table. Right now, 1989, guys, I was getting paid $12 an hour. Think about it. That's not bad scratch for a kid.
That's good money back then.
So that's when I started collecting in earnest. And I said to a friend of mine one day, who is he's a G1 collector too, but he's about 5 years older than me. So he was driving at that point and everything. And I was like, do you know anywhere that has a Fortress Maxus? Because Toys R Us had sold them all out at that point. You couldn't go to any mass marketplace and get them. It had to be a mom and pop shop.
Okay.
And said, yep. I know a store in Brooklyn that still has one sitting on their shelf.
Yep.
And I said, take me there.
Yeah, there you go.
and they take me there, and it's $125, which was actually a lot because it was like 87 at Toys R Us. But I didn't have a choice. So it was $125. I didn't have $125, but I asked the guy, I'm like, do you do layaway? Remember layaway, guys?
Yes. I remember when Walmart did layaway. My first iPod was layaway at Walmart.
And he said, yeah, absolutely. You're going to get this giant box out of my store that's been here for yeah. So I kid you not, guys. I didn't have a car back then. I took the subway or bus everywhere. So for an entire summer, every week after I got paid, I would make a pilgrimage to that store because it was a good 30, 40 minutes from my house. And on the train, I would take the train there, hand the guy like $20. He would write out this receipt, knock another $20 off. So I did that for weeks. And then finally the day came, my friend drove me there. I was like, last $25 payment. I got Fort Max, took it home. Love this thing. First of all, it's a freaking fun toy to this day.
It is. It really
you know
is.
what? No disrespect to the Transformers team. I love John Warden. I love Ben Montana. I love those guys to death. G1 Fort Max beats Titans Return Fort Max any day. It has
it really does.
It has rotating radar dish. It has a jail cell. It has launching ramps. Very few toys today hold a candle to that.
Right.
So it's fun, but it looks cool. But also, I worked so hard for it.
You worked for it. You earned it. It wasn't just given to you. You earned it.
It's your grail.
That's why he'd come with me.
All right, good. So that's your house on fire question.
Yeah.
All right, now here's the hot seat question. You can choose to not answer. So you have two options, and you can't say neither one. You get rid of one. And when I say get rid of, I mean nobody knows it, nobody remembers it, none of the stuff for it exists anymore. G1 or Beast Wars, which one goes?
Wouldn't one lead to the other?
No. You can ignore the continuity issues.
Oh, all right.
One goes and one doesn't.
That's a weird existential question. Believe it or not, I would get rid of G1 only because there's still enough DNA of it left in Beast Wars.
Nice.
That and it keeps growing from there. I mean, some people say Beast Wars is G1 to a degree, and I can totally see that. But yeah, G1 could go. The other thing Beast Wars did was it created arc-based storytelling for Transformers, which is granted not something they do a lot, but it gave Transformers the license to be that. It gave us characters, not that G1 didn't do this, but Beast Wars gave us another level of memorable character, right? I believe it or not, in the theater, I didn't cry when Prime died. I was sad. I didn't cry. When Dinobot died, I kind of lost it.
I was still caught on they were saying potty words in the movie theater. like at my, because I was like 6 when that movie came out. Like I was still stuck on they were saying damn and shit in the movie to even realize Optimus had died. Like I was stuck on that.
Yo, I did get emotional when Prime died, but I think I did get more emotional with Dinobot because of who he was and what he was up to that point. And I remember asking Bob Ford was at the BotCon we was at in Fort Wayne, Indiana that year. And I asked him, I said, did y'all get rid of Dinobot because y'all knew that him and Depth Charge couldn't exist in the same areas and whatnot because y'all knew that wouldn't work out? And he laughed about that. And I got him. I forget what his response was. I just remember him laughing about that so hard. He's like, you know what? I said, he said, that's probably the truth, but that's not why we got rid of Dinobot.
Yeah, there was a toy reason, I think, for that.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear. I love G1, and a lot of what I still view as Transformers is very G1 heavy, which is tough sometimes, because to enjoy what is now, I have to shelve a lot of G1 stuff in my head sometimes and kind of push it back into the past. But that, like, and I'm not just talking about the cartoon. Put that aside for a second. We all watched it. I mean, storybooks, comic books, you know, the coloring books, like all that stuff is like burned in my brain. So when I think G1, when I think about Optimus Prime, I have a very specific image, which may not be the same image that someone 10 years younger than me has.
Sure.
I've seen recently on chats a whole bunch of people saying, one of the panelists said this, Derek, at the panel. She said, my first exposure to Transformers was a 2007 movie. So that's her Prime.
Yeah.
It's not all
that's her G1. Yeah.
Right. But it's just as valid in my opinion.
That poor lady. That poor lady.
But like, did you enjoy it? You know, and let's be real, in that movie, at least, he was still not tearing people's faces off.
Once it became Murder Prime, it was kind of
yeah.
Oh, you know what? I'm looking at the chat. Yeah, I loved Miko too. So
everybody, yeah, I think everybody loved Miko after about mid second season and into the third season. Definitely, man. You know, you really came to love Miko because she was just that. She was that girl that it was just something about her that was just so not afraid to do the things that she did. And, it was just like, and she wasn't afraid of the consequences of it either, so it made her that much more interesting to, be who she was. And then she became a wrecker. That sealed it for me. So, she became an honorary wrecker. I was just like, yo, that sealed it for me. Yeah, Miko, that's my girl right there. And then not only did she become a wrecker, she wrecked shop in that Apex armor. Yo, I was a complete fan. I was like, yo, that's my girl right there. Yeah, but
that's what she deserved.
Real quick, chat squad, if you haven't figured it out, we're starting to wind down and wrap up. So if you have any questions, now's your chance to do it. We have Ben here. He said he will answer questions for you. This is your moment. If you do not ask, don't whine about it later.
There you go. Gord, did you have anything?
Yeah. We're talking about like what series would you get rid of, but just the same, if it was the reverse, with like the resurgence that we see of like different like toy brandings with like Beast Wars and things coming back, what toy line or show would you like to see like a proper resurgence for?
Good.
And in my head, like I think about like all the European characters that never really made it to a cartoon. Some of them featured in the IDW comics. I would love to see, like a real fiction for some of that stuff.
What I would want is, and this is like the opposite answer to Ricky's question, right? I would want one revival. Let's follow Rebirth, right? Let's bypass the Japanese continuity because it'll get really messy if we do that. Let's continue the Rebirth timeline and introduce all those European things and follow the cadence of the toys, right? Pretend like the writers still had to introduce those new toys every year.
Yeah.
So we get our Micromaster bases. So we get a whole city of Micromasters. I know Zone did that, but it did it for one episode. I mean, I want all the bases, not just Countdown and 4 little bases, right? I want all 20 whatever of them and a giant city. I want Pretenders. I want Mega Pretenders. Because I think some of that stuff, it seemed almost silly in toy, but if you think about animating some of that stuff, it actually would look pretty great. And I think the commercials did a good job of that. I would love there to be like not a full season, half a season where there's an Action Master storyline, and it leads to them all eventually transforming again. And then it leads into G1.5. So then we have our Skyquake and so on, because those toys just came out, in weird times in different countries. I want weird stuff like the G2 Power Masters to be animated.
You say G2 and you make Gort happy, man. That's his jam. That's his jam. He loves G2.
That Power Master Ironhide, it is the dopiest toy, and it's one of my favorite toys to this day. Stax is bizarre looking, and I love that toy. because when I got them, they had just come out. And my friend in the UK actually picked them up for me. So I got them like 14, 15 bucks a piece back then, which is kind of amazing. And he shipped them to me. Okay, so this is going to take you guys back. Remember when your friend overseas shipped something to you and you waited like 6 weeks for it?
Yeah, I was gonna say like 2-3 months if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So I waited 2 months for these things, and when I cracked them open, man, it was like love at first sight. So I would love all that as a revival, because I feel like, I know Rebirth is what it is, but I never felt G1 got the proper conclusion that it deserved. And if you look at most modern Transformer series, they're actually written with kind of an end in mind. So Cyberverse ended spectacularly and very well, but it was a very definitive stopping point. It's not that everyone died. It's just, okay, we're done. We can end here and we're good. But I always, even as a kid, when I watched Rebirth, I kind of thought, okay, is that it? Are we getting more?
Yeah.
And it was so sad for me, like as a kid, like as the weeks went along and I just saw reruns again and again, I was like, oh, that's it, isn't it? Like this is no more.
Yeah.
And then when Generation 2 was advertised in TV Guide, remember TV Guide? when I saw Generation 2 appear in TV Guide, I had no idea what it was. And then I just see the Cybernet Space Cube and I'm like, oh, once again, hopes of G1 having a fitting ending crushed. So yeah, definitely I think G1 would deserve that. Like if I won like Mega Millions and had like, crazy billionaire money, I'd be going to Hasbro going, all right, I want to do the show.
This, and this. Let's make it happen.
To play into what you're talking about, because I think it's part of that. If this is the series, as described, what you would want, who would you want writing it?
Yeah, that's the kind of that Dormammu's question. Yeah, good. That does play together.
This is irrespective of whether they'd be willing. Okay. I would definitely want Nicole Dubek on it because I think she's a wonderful connective tissue with modern fans, older fans. I would try to convince Bob Ford to be involved. I would pull Bob Skier into it. I would pull Simon Furman into it. A couple of the writers from IDW, I would pull into them. And we'd have a writer's room, right? It would be a cohesive effort. And I'd want this writer's room to come up with an arc, right? Because it would be G1 continuation, but that doesn't mean it has to be episodic. It doesn't mean it has Megatron's master plan of the week. You could still have, as some of the He-Man shows have shown us, you can have an arc-based story with a classic brand.
Sure.
And that's what I would want.
So you want a bunch of nobodies that none of us have ever heard of quietly in a room somewhere.
No, that would be if I
I've heard of every last one of them.
I was gonna say that was like the dream team. Like you just built the 92 dream team for Transformer nerds. Like all of us are like, oh, that'd be awesome.
I mean, and any like Flint Dilley, any of the guys from like the old series who are still.
Oh yeah, I would absolutely put Flint Dilley in that one. Yes.
Bob Budiansky, I would pull him in. Even if he didn't want to write, like, can you just sit in on some meetings and just
pick his brain,
just give your opinion?
So Bob actually lives about 3 towns away from me, and we have brunch once in a blue moon, and he's such a great guy to talk to.
He is. He was at BotCon.
There's a certain energy that I think people give off, and they can vibe off each other from a creative standpoint. And I would just love to mix all these people up because not all of them have worked together. They have worked on different generations of the brand, and I would love to see a mashup of their ideas because a lot of those characters, the Turbo Masters, the Predators, they're kind of blank slates. You could kind of do whatever you want with them. I mean, maybe we have bits of personality, and I'm not talking IDW because I wouldn't want to step on that. So IDW Skyquake would not be the Skyquake of this series, right? They'd be different characters.
Yeah.
And oh man, imagine that. And then like animation, we'd go G1 style, but like really modern, no animation errors. Like we would rock this.
or how about Easter eggs? You purposely do some animation errors, but you're doing it on purpose. It's like you'll have 3 star screens on the screen at one time for no apparent reason.
The camera pans over every painted the same.
Superion forms, and you just make one of his legs into a Combaticon or something for some reason. As
much as people complain about redecos in the line, I'm like, you know what? they have not yet gone and made all those Decepticons in 5 Faces of Darkness in that group shot. Like,
oh god,
until I get my Dirge colored Cyclonus, don't complain.
There you go. Yeah.
my 75 Constructicons,
Yes.
where are they all at?
My Shockwave and Skittles colors, like
these kids nowadays.
Yeah, no.
And then we did have one in there too. My neighbor Eric actually asked if you can match up between two different.
You did ask.
I thought he was answering the one with which writers he would want on board.
No. He it was actually both.
He kind of blended them.
Yeah. It blended those two questions together.
I got you.
It was blended very well.
I think he's asking Beast Wars and what would be fun.
You're saying Beast Wars and what would be a good combination?
That's a good question. Beast Wars is definitely a good starting point. And I also have to kind of put aside anything that like Kingdom. I can't say the whole War for Cybertron series because they did that. So I would actually like to. Okay, my first stupid thought was, what would Beast Wars and BotBots look like? But I think I'm the only human being on Earth who likes that.
There is no wrong answer, man.
Right?
There is
no
wrong answer.
Beast Wars and the Prime Wars trilogy.
Nice.
Because the Prime Wars trilogy had a very heavy G1 slant, right?
Yeah.
But I never really got a good sense of what it was thinking for the future. And that's essentially what Beast Wars represents, right? The future. Kingdom tried to do that a little bit. I think it got a little hamstrung by budget. Again, if I was a billionaire, I'd just be chucking money at them.
Yeah.
Like, make it good. I don't care how much you need.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And it's amazing. And speaking of the War for Cybertron series on Netflix, you can, and like I told most of the actors that came to the show, I told them, I say, I can definitely tell that y'all are fans of Transform, because y'all really got into your characters, and it was just written well, it was performed well, and all that. So yeah, I tell anybody, if y'all haven't seen the Netflix series yet, definitely take the time and do that, because it's like, and I also say the same thing about Voltron, Legendary Defender.
Oh, so good.
Legendary Defender.
I'm telling you, man, the more Ben talks, I'm like, get these guys out of here, man. Oh my God, he loves Voltron too.
We were robbed. I wanted that.
Yeah. Oh, season 8. Yo,
he's this side. I'm gonna reach out and touch you. We're just becoming best friends.
Dude, you talk about being robbed. The way season 8 ended, man. Yo, on Voltron Legendary Defender, dude.
Oh, when they showed,
so we are not going to get a vehicle team now. They showed 2 of them.
Yeah, when they showed vehicles, I was like, "Do not do this to me."
Like, right. And then to pour more salt on that. They showed Chip too.
Yep.
I was like, oh.
And I was thinking, like,
did
I miss a season 8 announcement somewhere? And then, like, nothing.
No. But anyway, we got. Go ahead.
Talk about a wonderful revival of a classic show.
Yes.
With arc-based storytelling, character development. I mean, that show had it all. I couldn't believe how good that show was.
Did you hear most people? They were like, man, they got him in the wrong line. In the beginning of it, they got him in the wrong lions. I'm like, so if I see the future correctly, I need to go ahead and just stay with this and see where it goes, because they're gonna end up in the right lines. It's just we need to find out why they ended up in the lions that they're in right now, and how do they transition. So yeah,
are you new to Voltron? Like,
right? No, because in the classic series, they had the uniforms on, but they were in different lions. Right. That their uniforms didn't match their lines back then at first. In this series, they did, but they transitioned into different lions. And the way they did it and explained it, oh my goodness, you couldn't ask for a better way to tell a story.
But you see, and this is relevant to Transformers too, you had faith that this was going somewhere, that there's a reason this is happening, right? And I think with a lot of entertainment, or action figures, it's very easy to just look at one thing, right? Wave 1, episode 1, and think, well, now I know what the whole series is going to be like, and just judge it purely based on that. And I think part of that, at least for me, I'll say for me, part of the reason some of my instincts go there is because we grew up in an era where all your pilot episodes had to sell the whole thing. So your pilot told you exactly what you were going to get for the next 26 episodes. Right. That's not really how entertainment works anymore, not in live action or really animation. And really, anime never really worked like that. Anime, since history, always developed, in the 80s. So I think it's so important, like with Earthspark, right? Some folks are going to watch that first episode and they're going to be like, I know where this is going. And it's like, well, do you?
I'll let you know a secret. Some folks haven't even seen that first episode and are already saying that because they're idiots.
And it's like, do you have all 26 scripts in front of you? Because if you talk,
let's talk. Message me.
And as someone who knows, I'm going to be as vague as possible as I'm allowed to be here. As someone who knows things about the toys, when I see people make assumptions about how things are done now for the toy that you have in your hand and where things are going with the toy line, it is interesting to me that people can't keep that open-mindedness sometimes stressing this isn't all inclusive sometimes. And it makes me sad because it makes me think, oh, but there's such greatness possibly coming or definitely coming, depending on what we're talking about. And I really hope when it comes, you're going to love it and you're going to give it a chance. I try my general rule of thumb with television shows, like live action 1 hour shows. If the premise interests me, I give you 3 to 4 episodes to hook me. Just give me one character hook. Give me one character I care about, one story beat that I care about, and I'll stick with you for the whole season. You got the whole season to tell me, right? Because you know where I also grew up? I grew up in the era of really horrible first seasons sometimes. Star Trek The Next Generation, first season. Go back and watch that. Some of that stuff is going to make you cringe.
Wesley Crusher's my hero.
There are episodes like when I was a kid, I was like, yay, more Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
And then, here I am 40-something years old and I rewatch episodes. I'm like, oh no.
Oh no. Sometimes you got to get to that like 3rd or 4th season before it really starts kicking ass.
Once we get the best of both worlds and then 3rd season kicks in, that's when they got their groove and they were like, okay, this is what we're doing. Even Transformers, let's put aside Beast Wars, long before Beast Wars, long before G2. Not every episode of G1 knocked it out of the park. There were More Than Meets the Eye was amazing because that's what Hope is all. And Ultimate Doom was fantastic. But then there were a couple of clunkers here and there before we got to the really good ones.
Voice goes to Hollywood. Oh, man. Sorry, I had a little cough there. I didn't mean to do that in the microphone.
City of Steel.
People will remember stuff like Ultimate Doom, More Than Meets the Eye, whatever. How many people talk about Bot lovingly?
Right. With the girl.
With the build the robot, and the some of the animation in that episode is even just ridiculous. Ironhide walking through like doorways in a building.
But you know what? If you take it as a gestalt, we still loved it, right? I think most shows or even toy lines, you got to kind of take a look at it. So I think it's such a rash thing to say, I didn't like all of Siege. It's like, really? Not one figure in all of Siege? Turd your crank? I find that hard to believe. Unless your standards are just like every deluxe has to be a masterpiece, which is a thing I've seen online. But if you are realistic about what you're paying for, I think you'll find some love in there somewhere. I try to find love in even stuff that I'm not crazy about. If you read my reviews, one of the things I like to do is say, look, this wasn't my cup of tea, but if you like blah, 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 then you may dig this. Otherwise, move on. But I rarely will write a review where I say, this just sucks, man. Because you know what? Maybe to someone else it doesn't. And look at my standards. I think the G2 Power Master toys are neat. And some, some people would look at them and go, "Oh my God, what is he smoking?" Yeah. And I'm like, "No, I get it. I showed a picture of Stacks recently to some fans, and they were just like, "What am I looking at? Is that real? Is that a real Transformer?" And I said, "Yeah." And I love him. He's horrible, but I love him.
All right, so we definitely got to wrap up at this point. But we do a hangout. We are doing a hangout like after this. He's gonna have a hangout going. Ben,
it's unbroadcasted.
It's unbroadcasted too. So Ben, if you want to hang out, if you got time to stick around, I'll send you the link, and then please feel free to come in and hang out. It's a Google Hangout. So, I mean, if you want to come in and hang out, I mean, we would love to have you continue the conversation and just talk a little bit more on, what we've been talking about all night. But before we wrap up, if you can just let us know where you're at, what platforms you're on, and, just tell us where you are.
Sure. Website is BWTF.com, Ben's World of Transformers. You can also find me at Twitter at BWTF_Ben, same exact tag for Instagram. I'm also on YouTube. Just look me up. It's also linked on my website. All my socials are there. Drop on by, please, and feel free to join me on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Ben's World TF. That is probably the best way to reach out to me directly if we're not personal friends. You can message me there. I will message you back. Twitter also, you can message me. I will message you back within a couple days. Just give me some time. I have a lot of emails that I have to get through. Yeah. And guys, thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Oh man, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I had a blast.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be 100 with you. These guys will tell you I'm usually kind of a hard nut to crack, man. And I was like, man, this is gonna be boring as like just sitting here listening to this guy talk about Beast Wars for 2 hours. And I'm gonna tell you what, you changed my mind on that. You were a really cool dude, and it was fun talking to you,
Thank
man.
you.
There's a lot of interesting stuff you ran out there and stuff, man. So I will be grown enough to say I ate crow on that one. like this is, I really appreciate you coming out here and talking to us, and I hope you come back. Like once this next round of Transformers has worked its way through, and you're able to talk a little more freely, come back and tell us that. Bring us up to date. You know what I mean? That'd be awesome to hear what you're able to get into now and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'd love to do like a Generations Roundtable at some point or something. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. Hey, yo, Ricky, tell them where you at.
Here on Friday nights. I'm on a podcast, Now You Made It Awkward, that I do with Shoki and Dormammu. You can find me slipping in your mama's DMs. No, I'm just playing. Not like that. You can find me just pretty much around everywhere, and doing the promotional videos for Nerd Rage Radio.
All right, Gord, you at?
You find me right here Friday nights in Hangout. We're every other week doing the show, and then the Hangout, same thing, rotating. Local toy shows, New Jersey. We have ToyCon this weekend, tomorrow and Sunday. I'll be there both days, courtesy of all those firings in my schedule changed. So now Sunday.
Wow. Yeah. Right.
Ouch, yeah. But that's it. I'm here.
All right, Derek B.
Hang on, Derek.
Ben, turn your volume down, Ben. Turn your volume down, Ben.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. Yeah. Like I really appreciate what you do, and really just everything. Like keeping it going for so long too.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's a lot of them talking about the mid 90s. People don't realize that's a lot longer than people realize. That's a run, man.
Don't do that if you were alive then. And I also wanted to thank all the kind folks who are in the chat, posting comments as we've been chatting, giving questions. I don't have an account, so I can't actually type comments in there. But I really wanted to thank everyone for their participation. They really kept it lively, and that's much appreciated as well.
We're live on YouTube, so you can go to the actual YouTube stream and be able to type in there as well. So, but dude, you're more than welcome to come back, man. We would love to have you back on here,
absolutely,
on our other shows as well. So feel free to keep the lines open. And you're definitely one of us, as you already know. So yeah, just continue to come back.
He might be the king or senator of us. He's been doing this for a hot minute. He is way deeper than most of us.
He's the OG.
He's not a giant nerd.
Yeah,
he might be.
He's our OG. Yep.
Yeah,
man.
He's been around for a minute. Love it. Thank you again, Ben.
No, this is super fun. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, man. All right, we're gonna wrap it up. Catch us here every other Friday, 9 p.m. On the alternating Fridays, we have our Rock Hangout. So make sure you check us out there. If you want to come be a part of the Hangout, just come on in. The link is going to be in the Facebook group of Realm of Collectors. Check out what we're doing on realmofcollectors.com. You can see our shows, our show lineup for the week. We got ETR on Mondays. We got Shelf Gravy on every other Wednesdays. We also have Figure Bang on the alternating Wednesdays. We will be here on Friday nights, every other Friday, Realmhattan Project, and then the alternating Fridays, as I said before, is the Rock Hangout. Now,
and then right out the box be random as fuck. They just show up whenever they want to. It might be a Saturday at 11:15 in the morning.
Yeah, hey, we do right out the box randomly throughout the week. If we got anything to show you new, or we want to just show you something, we'll just pop a link up in the Facebook group and let y'all know that we're getting ready to be on. In the meantime, look for me, Derek B, on your social medias. We got you'll see me in your book of faces as Derek Bigsby, and you also see me on the live shows during the week, bringing the what to the chat squads. All right, okay. Yeah, I hope I didn't pop anything, Ben.
No, I'm good.
All right, guys. Thank y'all so much for being here. Chat Squad, we love you. And we will see you all in 2 weeks. All right.
Or in the Hangout afterwards. Check us out.
In the Hangout. Yeah, we'll send out the link afterwards, see if y'all, and if anybody want to come in and hang out and further the conversation, please do so. In the meantime,
thanks again, Ben.
Peace.
Take care, everyone.
Say it with me now. Really?